Hi, Aline. My name's Rowan, and I'm one of the job placement advisors with Oxford Seminars. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today about what it's like to teach online. We do have a lot of TESOL course graduates inquiring about online teaching these days, so that's really much appreciated from our side. First off, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
For sure, yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you today, Rowan. My name is Aline. So thank you for the time again to meeting up with me. So I graduated from the TESOL course, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and it was such a great course, and I loved the experience of taking that, and with the online and the presential part too. And before that, I had no experience teaching at all. I came from the tourism industry, and I've always loved traveling, have the flexibility to work wherever I am in the world. And at that time, I was thinking about moving to Italy. So that was perfect because I took this TESOL certificate in Canada, in Winnipeg. And then I moved to Italy, and I had the opportunity to finish the course online while I was there. And then after a month that I graduated, I got my first job as an TESOL ESL teacher, right? I think that's how is it called, because they call it so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my first job, and I think Oxford seminars, they helped me so much to get my first job. And I was always wondering like how was going to be like, because I had no experience at all, just the course itself. And but it was great because it worked out pretty well. So from there, since 2019, I've been teaching English online, and it's a great opportunity.
That's a good point you made about the online component, where the in-class portion, of course, you have to be in Canada or United States to finish that. But as long as you have a solid internet connection, I guess, you could complete the rest of the course, the online component of the course, wherever you may be in the world. And what was the first job you got then after you finished your course?
So yeah, so the first job I got, so I was thinking about teaching. First, I was thinking about teaching in a school in Italy, but because for some reasons, like I was not able to at the time, so I asked for help, and they gave me some websites that I could search for jobs online, because at the time you didn't have any partnerships with any schools online. So the first job I got was in a school called Enlai. I think that's how they call it, like ENLAI. And then this school, before applying for that, or even before accepting the job, I emailed Oxford Seminars to ask, is it a good school? What do you think about that? Could you just give me some tips about job interview, about anything? And they gave me a lot of instructions how to start, and then how to read a contract and things like that. Is that all this material is available online too, so you can read it and you'll be able to go from there. And then it was like a very small school. It's not as big, but like they have us, I had to go through a process where they contact me first by email, responding my email saying, hey, would you like to go for an interview? And then I went to 2 interviews, and after that I passed, and they sent me a contract, and
Nice. So
that's
this
about it.
was the stuff you're talking about online. You're referring to the interview tips and contract review tips and things like that that are available in the My Oxford Seminars portal.
Exactly.
Okay, great. I'm glad you found those useful. So just backtracking a little bit, why in the end did you decide to apply to teach online, and what interested you about the idea of teaching over the internet?
Yeah, that's one of the things, because at that time when I said I was planning to teach in Italy, I was not 100% sure at that time if I was going to stay there for a long term. So I was like, online will give me the flexibility that I need until I figured it out what I'm gonna be for long term. And that's one of the reasons why about the flexibility of time. And as long as I have a good internet, I could teach from anywhere in the world. So that's one of the good reasons why I choose to teach online instead of going to a school and teach there.
Makes sense. And so you've applied to at least two we know about now. Um, roughly how many schools did you apply to get an online teaching job?
So that first one, I think I applied for about five at that time. And then I got an email back instantly. I really thought that it was not a reliable school at first. That's why I contact Oxford Seminars first and send the email, because they replied to me within an hour. And then I thought maybe this is a scam, right? Because we talked about this during our in class when I was in Winnipeg, still having classes. They said, be careful with the scams. So I thought it was one of those, because they replied me within an hour, and then I didn't responded them. And I think they replied me again next day. And I was like, this is weird. And then it wasn't a scam, it was a real school, and I loved teaching for them, so it was great. But it was good to have this support from Oxford Seminars to give me the idea to see, they gave me a lot of tips to identify a scam instead of a real school, so it was great.
Nice. And then when in your second time around applying, how many schools did you apply to then?
This was the only one, because it was through you guys, because you recommended me to this school. And it was just easier process, because when I contact Oxford Seminars, they just say, oh, would you like me to send your resume to this school? I was like, yeah, sure. And then I got the job.
Nice. And so what was the application process, I guess, for both of them, just to sort of compare and contrast what it's like applying to different online schools?
I think the second one that I got the job through you was a little easier, because was just one time demo class I had to do. That was it. The first one, because they didn't know me and I didn't know them, I think it was a little longer. So it was, I think, 3 steps. So the first one, I had an interview with this person who emailed me asking me to go for an interview. So after I passed this first stage, I think, they invited me to the demo to do a demo class. But before the demo class, she prepared me for the demo class. That was one of the great parts of teaching for that school, because they had such a support to the new teachers, and she gave me so much tips, so many tips about it. And she prepared me for this job interview and for this demo class too. And I think it took me an hour with her, asking questions and going through the material and watching videos too. So the third time with them, I actually gave my demo class, and then it was like just a little longer than this second opportunity I had.
So you'd had a lot of demo practice by that point.
Exactly, yes.
Nice. And did you feel you needed any special qualifications to get an online teaching job? What kind of impact would you say your Oxford Seminars, TESOL, TESOL, TEFL certificate and job placement service had in your ability to obtain and perform online teaching jobs?
I think it's fundamental to have these certificates, because all the schools I applied for, they asked for it. So there was none of the schools I applied for. Sometimes the schools, they say, oh, we need a person who has a bachelor's degree. And some people, they think, oh, but I don't have one. But that's okay. You can be hired even though you don't have one. But without a TESOL certificate, you won't be able to find a job, as far as I could search, and from experience, I would say.
Good to know. And what strategies did you use to succeed in your teaching demo class?
So for the first one, because the teacher advisor, she gave me so many tips. I thank her a lot for that, because I think that was essential for that, because she helped me a lot, because it was my first time teaching online and teaching at all. Like I had some experiences like tutoring other people, but not
Hmm.
teaching exactly, and watching videos, because all the schools, they will send you some demo classes videos so you can get prepared. So the second one, they just asked me, they didn't do an interview, they just asked me to do a demo class, and that was it, and gave me some videos, and that was it. But because I had the experience with that other school, I think that it was easier, I think, on the second time.
So how did you feel you had to act, or what strategies did you have to bring into the demo to be successful in your demo?
I think one of the things, I think the most important thing is time management. I would say it's not English itself for teaching itself, but you have to have a good time management, because the classes, like for the first school, was just a 25-minute class. So you have to be able to cover all the material within 25 minutes. And if you won't be able to do that, you can get penalized,
Mm,
or even they would just end your contract, something like that. So you have to be very good time managing your content, kind of thing. And I think what that was one of the challenges, because you have to cover everything and you have no experience. So you have to say, oh, I thought I have to spend 5 minutes on the intro, 5 minutes doing a cover new words, vocabulary, and then doing a vocabulary practice in 10 minutes, and then you have to be able to manage that. So I think that's one of the challenges that I faced, I think, in the beginning.
all right, thanks for that. How long have you been teaching online for now?
For the second school, I got hired, I think, in November. So since November last year, so it's not much time. And my first one, my first opportunity, I think I taught for them for about 3 months. Wasn't that much, because the online school, actually, they got not bankrupt, but they closed for the online part. So
Mm,
they invited me to go to China to teach in China, actually, because they have physical schools there. And
okay.
so they gave me the opportunity to relocate if I was willing to, because the online platform wasn't uh, was not going to be existing anymore. But they said, if you're interested, we have opportunities in China, in different places, so you can come and teach for us. So
Nice.
I
So
didn't
you're
even.
building connections regardless. But I guess that's a good example of why it's probably best, where possible, to apply for some pretty established online schools that have been around a while and aren't at risk of closing up shop anytime soon.
Exactly. So now, after, like, I think this opportunity I had in 2019, and now she sent me an email back saying they're opening a new school online, and if I was interested to teach for them again. So that's the good point of building solid and relationships, because they will always keep you in mind whenever they need. So that's good too.
Nice. And what would you say are the pros and cons of teaching online?
I think the pros, I'll start with the pros. I think the flexibility, for sure. And what else? I think, yeah, one of the pros would be flexibility, for sure. You can teach from anywhere you are. So as long as you have a good internet connection. So you just have to make sure of that. And I think the cons will be the internet connection. I was just telling Rowan that sometimes I have to have a spare internet cable to connect to my modem. I think that's how it's called, like the that thing.
Your modem, yeah.
Yeah, and because you never know. And I think one of the cons is because sometimes the interaction with the students is different too. Because if you're in school, you can see right away if the student is understanding what you're saying, if they have any questions. And when you're teaching English online, depending on the school, like the school I'm currently working, I don't see my students. They see me through the video, but I don't see them. So when I ask if they have questions, I don't know if they are keeping up with me or if they're just completely lost. Sometimes I just try to interact as much as I can, but you just lose that kind of that. Yeah, I don't know.
So how do you do sort of checking in with your students to make sure they're understanding in an online classroom?
So what I do, I ask them, like, I try to make them comfortable as much as they can. So I try to make the environment fun and kind of light, kind of just to make them comfortable. If they have questions, they don't be afraid to ask me. Because sometimes if they feel like, oh, I'm scared, I don't want to say it, I'm shy or something like that. So you have to make them comfortable. So I spend about 10 minutes to get to know them, because in this school I have more time. It's not a 25-minute class, it's a 45.
Okay.
So I spend a lot of time in the beginning to get to know them and show them, like, we're all learning here. It's okay to make mistakes, and English is not my first language either. And I get where you're coming from. So I try to make them comfortable so they don't be afraid to ask questions, I think.
Nice. And do you get the same students all the time, or is this new, different students every day?
On the first school, I used to get same students pretty much often. This time, I don't get, like, I've been working there since November, and I like every time it's a different student. And in this school right now, it's fun. It's funny because you can teach up to 4 people at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So it's a challenge with the time management, I was saying,
Uh-huh.
because you have to give each of them the opportunity to speak and to interact with you the same amount of time, kind of thing. So that's a challenge. If it's 45 minutes, you have to make sure, like, each of them, they have the opportunity to speak at least for
Right.
10 minutes or to interact with you.
I mean, you would say for a public school, 4 students, that's a very small class. But I guess for an online 45-minute session, it's not the same.
Exactly. That's sometimes how I feel like, because as you said, if you go even to a private or a public school, you teach more than 4 people for sure, and that's fine. And I don't know, here I find that challenge because I feel like I have to make them speak, kind of thing. And in the public school, you interact with everyone and everyone interacts with each other, I think.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, like, why do I find this a challenge? Because, right? Because it's just 4 people, but I feel like, oh my gosh,
Oh, I see what
sometimes I
you're
feel like,
saying.
yeah,
Totally different situation, different classroom environment.
exactly.
And what technology do you need to teach online? Did you already have what you needed, or did you have to go out and invest in new equipment?
All these schools, they normally ask for specific computer qualifications, kind of thing. I'm not very good with technology, so I always ask for help to see, like, if my Windows is okay, if the specifications, I think, of the computer is okay.
Right. So
Because
which I guess software or hardware did they ask about to make sure that yours was up to speed?
yeah, so that's different, I think, from each one, because it depends on the platform they're using. So how heavy it is. Sorry, I don't understand much about it, but I think it depends on how much the platform will need from your computer to be stable and things like that. So it would depend. So I
Right.
think in some schools, like, it will be fine. But the first one, they gave me a list of which computers I could have. So I had to buy one at the time because my computer wasn't good enough.
Oh, so it needed a certain level of processor speed, a certain amount of RAM, things like that.
Exactly. So I said, sorry, I'm very bad at this. So they gave me a list. So I searched on Amazon. So for the computers and the specifications they needed. And then I bought one for this school, I already have one. So I was like, I
Right.
think it should be fine. But at first I had to buy, because my computer was old too. So if you have a good computer, I think it should be fine. It's just because mine was old. So I think the computer, because it depends on the platform they're using, they would need certain things from your computer too.
And in terms of the webcam and the mic and things like that, just the internal stuff that came with the computer was fine.
Yes, was fine. It's just this also I had to buy, so that's why I'm using this, because I had to buy one of this.
So they want your
Because
headset to be a certain quality as well.
Yeah, because some people, I've seen people teaching with just earphones,
Hmm.
with the mic plugged in, and for the sound, some schools they require you have a headset and things. So it will depend on the school you're teaching for.
Makes sense. And how would you say your student caseload is? How many students do you teach per week?
So for this school, you just make your own schedule. So it depends. For example, so for this school, what I do, they require me to send my availability with at least 20 hours a week, but it doesn't mean you're gonna get uh, all the spaces booked up.
Hmm.
So for example, like sometimes I give them 20 hours of my availability, but I only get 10 classes booked. So you have to be kind of on call to see what's going to happen. So it depends in each week. So for last week, because was the week before Spring Festival, I got like very few students,
Hmm.
but the week before was like more students. So it depends. But for the first school, I was a little different because they gave me Thursday to Sunday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. So I had those time slots booked, and they will pay me no matter what, if I had students or not. So I would be there, and sometimes nobody will show up, but they will pay me because I was their teacher for that time, kind of
Right.
thing.
That's a good situation, those guaranteed hours.
Yeah, the guaranteed hours. Yes. Hmm.
So for your current school, what would you say is a good week? How many students do you get in a good week at this school?
I think when I give them 20 hours of my availability, I get 14 classes booked. And in 14 classes, it can be up to 4 students each. So, yeah, it's a lot of students.
Oh,
So,
do they pay per student?
no,
No, just per class.
per class. But you have to evaluate each student after class.
I
Mhm.
see. And so roughly how many teaching hours do you get in a good day then?
So like for example, on a Sunday, I realized it's the best day because all the hours that I leave available, I get it booked. So on
Oh,
Sundays
nice.
and Saturdays too. So that's good. So for example, I normally leave like 7 hours or 6 hours, and I always get all my hours booked on the weekends.
And what does a typical workday look like for an online teacher who's teaching students in Asia? Like from when to when is it best to be available to get those slots booked?
Okay, so it's normally from 7 a.m. Oh, so their time, right? So China time will be 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. So that's so they usually require you to get the evening hours available because most of them, they are adults and they work all day. So they will have from 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. like their peak hours. That's what they called. So they wanted you to be available for that. But if you have also in the morning before they go to work or before they go to school, I guess, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. their time, that'll be also really good. And on the weekends, they say anytime you want because they are more available.
So if you were available 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the evening, 5 or 6 days a week, you could get, 30, 36 hours a week, potentially.
I was gonna say you can, yeah, definitely, potentially, for sure, yes. I think if you be available, and I think that's what I understood from this school. The more hours you have available, they'll give priority to you. So I don't give much time available because I already have a full-time job and
Oh,
I study too.
so this is a more of a part-time side gig for
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. So this is my part-time job, especially with the pandemic, because I used when I stopped working from the first school, I got a job at in a restaurant,
Hmm.
and because of the pandemic, all the restaurants were closed. So I thought, why not go back to teaching online? Because it doesn't matter what happened in the world. This is something that people will always look for.
What advice would you give new online teachers with regards to keeping students engaged in an online classroom?
Exactly, because I noticed that even though the world kind of stopped, we were like at home, they will never stop learning, especially English, because it's one of the most I think it's the most speaking language in the whole world. Everyone needs English to communicate. And the Chinese students, they love English and they are so like I always say like this like they are really like very willing to learn and they're eager to learn the language and they are very like they are so hardworking and that's one of the good things because when the restaurants closed, this was the opportunity was available for me, and I'm pretty sure if I wanted to work more, they will give me more students too. So that's great.
So what's your strategy, I guess, to get the students talking, to get them interested in the material?
That's the good thing. This material that I have from this school is a very interactive material because there are so many questions and not much reading. So what I like to do, I like to get them to talk. So I ask them questions, but not only the questions are on the slides, but I make my own questions to make it like to make it more personal and they want to talk about it and they feel more comfortable because sometimes you have the other day I had a class about what is it called? I think it was about soil. And I didn't know much about it because there's a lot of geography involved and I'm not
Hmm.
very good at it. So I got prepared, but I was like, not as much. So I tried to try to get this topic to connect to what the students come from. So I would like to see what about in your neighborhood or in your city? Have you ever seen that? Because not something like in Australia, so they've never been to Australia. So I know that. I was like, what about in your neighborhood? Like, do you see anything on the soil, like any erosion kind of thing? And I don't know, in the parks close by, and
Make
they're
it about
very
them, about their
their
experiences.
own experiences because they know how to talk about their own experiences. And as long as you make them talk, I think that's what matters the most because I think when they get these classes with you online, they already have a lot of baggage like grammar, vocabulary. I think they they stud at least in the other school, this was just the speaking part. They would
Hmm.
have classes for other topics like listening, grammar. So I would just have to make them practice speaking. So the more they talk, that's the better it is. So So if they talk about their experiences and, oh, I think it's easier for them. And then sometimes on the material, they have some curiosities from other parts on the world. And then I will ask, like, can you compare? So what we read here about somewhere else, and what what is about your experience? So can you compare the two information? And then they feel very comfortable, and they're very smart. They will know all the questions you ask them. It's very hard. So you ask a question, then look at you and they don't answer anything. They always have information about everything you ask them. So, and they want to talk. So that's good.
Nice. How would you say you set up your space to feel like a classroom? What should your background look like? And do you need any props or tools of the trade for online teaching?
Yeah, so for this school, my background has to be exactly like what you're seeing now. It
Oh,
has to
really?
be white and
Nothing.
all white, nothing. It has to be plain white, and that's why I always get into my office, and I just be here and just leave it plain and white and nothing there. Some of the schools, they will require you like to have a dress code. So sometimes you don't you you cannot wear t-shirts. You have to wear long sleeves. So it depends on the school. You have certain rules, I would say, but pretty much like to have a plain and bright and light colored wall will be best.
Sounds good. Do the students have an opportunity to rate their teacher? And if so, what can teachers do to ensure good ratings from their students?
Yes, so they have so we evaluate them, and they are also not required, but they encourage them to evaluate the teachers too. And if in this school, if they evaluate you, they can also give you a bonus. Like they say, I can get U coins for each student, which means like 1 UN extra per in my paycheck kind of thing.
Oh,
So just if they rate me and it's good, they can also give bonuses. And I think one of the things that, because we had a ceremony the other day for this school because they were awarding the the top 10, no, the top teachers for 2020. And they were good. I was new to the school, so I was just listening to them, and they were saying one of the tips is just as I was saying, like to make them comfortable and to make them speak to you, make them, I think, more relaxed. Don't make them to feel like scared or something, because some of them are shy, some of them don't want to, they're afraid to ask questions. So I think one of the things is to make it fun, I would say, to make the class fun.
and what does lesson planning for an online classroom look like?
So they will give you pretty much all the material you need. I just go over it before class and check on the vocabulary, the words, and see how I can make this material fun too, how to make them interact with it. So in this school, it's pretty much the same material every class. So they have warm-up questions. Normally it's 2 to 3 warm-up questions you ask them. And these warm-up questions are related to the topic. And then after that, we go to the words and expressions. And normally they have up to 14 new words and the meanings. So yeah, sometimes
A
it's
lot of
only
vocab.
yeah, sometimes it's only 6 if they have a lower level, but like the more high level they are, more words they get and more difficult their words. And sometimes even me, I feel like I've never heard of this word before, so I have to search for it. I was like, oh, because it's very specific and they use in academic purposes and we don't use in daily life. So I was like, what was that? And then they have a vocabulary practice where they have to fill up the gaps with the words they learned. And then they always have a dialogue between two people, and then you can, so what I do, always make them to read the dialogue and focus on pronunciation and things like that. And in the end, they have a discussion part. And then if I have 2 people or 4 people in the classroom, I always ask them to interact with each other and discuss between the two. And then that's pretty much it. So because it's like the same model, I would say, like they always start with a warm-up, words, vocabulary practice, so it's easier to plan as the time goes by, kind of thing.
They like that predictability of what they're going to do each day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so how long would you say it takes you each class to prepare, to review the material, and then at the end to finish your evaluation?
Okay, so for preparing the materials, normally it takes me from 15 to 30 minutes. It depends on the topic. As I was saying, like the other day, I got something about geography. I'm not very good at it, like erosion and this kind of. So I tell them I'm learning too, because I learned this when I was young, very young, and when I was in school. So sometimes it takes me up to 30 minutes. And to evaluate them, it depends on how many people I have in the classroom. So if it's one person, it's easier and faster. But if it's 4 people and I have 3 classes in a row, and in the end I have to evaluate, for example, 12 students, so it takes me about sometimes an hour, kind of thing.
So when you say 30 minutes, that's for one class or for all the classes you're going to teach that day?
Up to 30 minutes, one class sometimes, but I sometimes I manage to doing 15. It depends if it's easy, like it's a level 3 and it's about the other day I had a class about koalas or something like that, and you see it's easy, so it's faster. But it's something like more complicated, it takes me a little longer.
Makes sense. Are there any specific do's and don'ts? Are there any common mistakes new teachers should avoid?
um so for this one, let's see. I think the do's would be like, yeah, try to interact them as much as you can, and try to speak as yeah, don't try not to speak as much, because you have to let them practice. And some people, they get very excited and they want to talk, but it's not your time to talk. You have to talk less and let them talk more. I think that would be a do. And I don't. I think if you see they don't, if sometimes what happens when I see they are a little like they don't understand, and you say, oh, do you have a question? And they say no, they sometimes they don't want to talk, and then what I do when I evaluate them, I see I take notes throughout the class, and I let them know I'm taking notes throughout the class. So what I do when I evaluate them, especially when there are 4 students and they are talking and you see a lot of mistakes, grammar mistakes or pronunciation mistakes, I don't like to interrupt them each time in front of the other students, say, hey, you said this wrong, or you shouldn't say like this. I take notes, and when I evaluate each of them privately, I give them some tips on the things they could improve. So I think not correcting their mistakes in front of the other students, I think is not a good idea, maybe.
All right. How much money would you say you can make teaching online, I guess, in a good week?
As I said, like this is my part-time job, so it depends on, because I also study, so some weekends I don't give an availability. But for example, I know like this school right now, I think they pay around 20 Canadian dollars an hour. So
Not
which is
bad.
good, not bad. So
Right.
that's really good. So for example, the other day I had 14 classes. For me, it was a good week, because for my part-time working 14 hours from home, no time in commuting and things like that, I would say, yeah, was fair enough.
All right.
Because I don't spend much on gas or things like that, so that's good.
And how did the schools pay teachers who are living in other countries?
And it's, I think, a bank transfer. So some of them use TransferWise or other applications to transfer money, I
So it's
think.
not too difficult. You just give them your bank details and they send it right through.
Exactly. You can find it online. You can go to your online banking and get all the information and just send to them. And they are very punctual. So they say, we're going to pay you on the 5th. They will pay you on the 5th. So I had no
Nice.
problems getting my paycheck late kind of thing.
And do you have any final words of wisdom to potential online teaching applicants?
I was gonna say, if you're planning to teach English online, I think you should go for it. I would recommend it. You know, as I said, you don't have to leave your house, first of all, so it doesn't matter what's going on outside of your house. If there is a pandemic or if there is traffic or something happened like a snowstorm, you will always have work and you can always make money from it. And not only about the money, I would say, but the interaction you have with other cultures too. I've learned so much with my Chinese students. They are so smart and they are always willing to learn. It makes you learn too, and makes you always want to to be more involved and participate and get more information, because they'll be eager to learn and learn from you. So everything you want to teach them, they value so much. So when I hear, like, in the end of the day, thank you so much, teacher, I learned so much with you today, like, it pays me off. Like, doesn't matter if it was $20 an hour or $7. Like, I just feel like this is like my uh, I'm speechless now, but it just seems like it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it. So it's something easy to do. You just have to have an internet connection, which I'm pretty sure all of you have, and a laptop, and you can travel. You can live in Canada. You can live outside Canada. You will always have the opportunity to work and to have this great interaction with other people.
So helping them learn and seeing the reward they get from it is also payment in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All
That's how
right.
I feel.
Thanks so much for your time. It has been a pleasure speaking with you about your experience today, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you very much. Good luck.